You're watching WSAV on your side. Now, WSAV News 3 at 5.
A former city alderman in hot water as he faces theft charges. What we know so far. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tina Shaw.
And I'm Ben Singer. Thank you for joining us tonight. He spent 15 years in Savannah city government. Now a controversial former Savannah alderman could end up spending time in jail.
WSAV News 3's Andrew Davis is joining us in the Low Country newsroom with additional information on the arrest of Tony Thomas.
Well, he faced allegations of relationships with young boys, censure from his fellow council people, and eventually was voted out of office by the people he counted on most. Now Tony Thomas is facing his biggest challenge, a felony arrest charge. Thomas was picked up by Pooler Police Tuesday on a charge of felony theft by taking. The former 5-term Savannah alderman was now listed as the manager of the Parker store on Pooler Parkway. Pooler Police have not released the full report yet, but News 3 has learned that Thomas is accused of taking several $1,000s from the store along with other items. He was defeated by Curtis Pertee in a council runoff in 2019, but he may be best known from his actions in 2017. When he was the first alderman censured by the council, in part for lewd comments he made to a local reporter and being drunk during St. Patrick's Day. Thomas was always ready to speak his mind, firing back at then-Mayor Eddie DeLoach, who said he, quote, conspired against him in these comments in an interview on News 3.
Challenge the mayor on some things. I hope he'll take me up on those challenges and all of that, especially a drug and alcohol test. I think that would be beneficial for the whole city to make sure that I'm clean and make sure that he's clean.
This felony charge Thomas now faces carries a sentence of up to 5 years in prison. He was released on $2,400 bond. We did reach out to Thomas himself to see if he wanted to address any of these allegations, but he did not return our call. Andrew Davis, WSAV News 3 on your side.
Andrew, thank you. Police believe the body of the man that washed ashore on Jones Island Tuesday is that of missing Tybee Island man Corey White. Along with the remains, police also recovered personal items including his wallet, cash, and identification. 44-year-old White was reported missing back in May and was last seen on April 29th. White was known to work on the water. The sheriff's office tells us the body has been sent for autopsy and positive identification. This is a developing story. We will update you as we learn more.
And we're following up on a shooting that happened on Hilton Head Island last night. It happened on Muddy Creek Road near Bryant Road around 8. We've learned that 2 men were actually shot there, not one as previously reported. Both victims were brought to Memorial Health here in Savannah. They have yet to be identified. If you know anything about this, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers of the Low Country at 843-554-1111.
We are getting answers tonight as some families say they are being forced out of the Savannah short-term housing facility Family Promise. Now they are worried they have nowhere else to go. Family Promise of the Coastal Empire accepted the families into the program to provide help with food, clothing, and shelter. Now some of the families are accusing the facility of verbal abuse, negligence, and false communication. Sharita Miles, who claims she is being forced out tomorrow, says she feels the need to speak out.
And it has to come to an end. I just felt like it was right for us to speak up, because now you're hindering not only adults, you're hindering kids. My 7-year-old daughter sat there at the table yesterday and said, so are we going to be homeless again? You know, so it's not right. It's not right at all.
Executive Director of Family Promise Katrina Bostic released a statement to News 3. It reads in part, Family Promise does not have the resources to continue to pay rental deposits and ongoing rent for families who choose to not fully participate in our programs. To see the full statement, go to wsav.com/familypromise.
New at 5, the back and forth between the town of Hilton Head and Beaufort County over the 278 corridor, when it should be finished and what it will look like will continue. Town Council tabled a vote on the latest memo of understanding with the county over the $280 million project, which stretches from Moss Creek to the Cross Island Parkway. The town had previously asked for more studies and more time to look at options and alternatives. The county has said it will go ahead with its portion of the project, even if the town doesn't agree with all the parameters, because it could stand to lose hundreds of millions in state and federal funding if the project is not finished by the year 2025. Town Council has pushed any vote until October. The two sides say they will talk more in the meantime.
In consumer news now, bipartisan bills that would reduce extra credit card fees are getting support from some major retailers, including Walmart and Target. When a customer makes a purchase using a credit card, well, retailers have to pay what is called interchange fees. So retailers often pass the extra fees on to customers by raising prices. MasterCard and Visa make up a majority of the credit card market in the U.S. Some senators have introduced bills that would allow businesses to send payments to different networks not operated by MasterCard or Visa.
The U.S. Labor Bureau Statistics released its latest Consumer Price Index report. It finds that costs have gone up nearly 12% in the last year in the Southeast region. So while food prices went up 3% between June and August in our area, energy costs dropped 10%, with gas prices plummeting 20%. If there are further interruptions, like last week's potential rail strike, it ultimately impacts the consumer with higher prices.
What's more driving this is not people's voluntary decisions to, okay, I'm going to buy less of this because the prices are going up. It's that inflation is eroding real wages. And so we were seeing real incomes fall because of that. And so people are going to cut back on their expenditures because they simply don't have enough purchasing power in their pocket anymore.
Economists say 40% of goods are transported through trucks, while 30% through rail.
WSAV is your local election headquarters. With less than 50 days until the crucial midterm elections, NBC Nightly News is taking a look at the rural Black Belt. Now, these are places with a larger number of Black voters that are carrying increased political weight.
Places like Georgia, where Democrat Stacey Abrams is trying to energize voters as she runs for governor. In an exclusive interview, Abrams sat down with Blaine Alexander to talk about the role that she thinks Georgia voters have now.
Georgia is often a lead on what's going to happen across the country. We saw Georgia's transformation long before the national attention turned to us. When money was being poured into other states, we were able to signal back in 2016, we have a competitive election here. Pay attention to Georgia. And while much more money was spent on our neighboring states, we actually performed as well, but with less investment. What we know is that the future of how politics happen will be shifting to the Sun Belt, and Georgia is dead center, not only physically and geographically, but certainly in terms of our predictive ability to show what the electorate will look like going forward.
So what are Georgia voters saying about the influence of national dissatisfaction on their local races? The conversation continues on NBC Nightly News following News 3 at 6.
Still to come, members of the Trump family facing a massive multi-million-dollar civil fraud lawsuit.
Why the New York Attorney General says they were part of a fraud scheme that lasted more than a decade.
The sunshine we've been enjoying for today will stick around for our Thursday, and with that, temperatures will be a little bit hotter. We'll talk about that and the latest on the tropics coming up in a few moments.
At 5:30, a possible gang-related shooting in Georgia that left one young man dead and at least 3 others injured. You're watching WSAV News 3 at 5. We'll be right back.
Now, back to WSAV News 3 at 5 with Tina Tyashaw, Ben Singer, and Chief Meteorologist Chris Allred. WSAV News 3, on your side.
Welcome back. We're taking a live look outside now from our tower cam. This is from atop our building here. We're looking toward downtown. See the commute going on the Talmadge Bridge there. Scott is in for Chris tonight. He has the full forecast coming up in about 2 minutes. Making headlines right now, former President Trump and his family face new legal problems. New York's Attorney General filing a lawsuit against Mr. Trump, his 3 oldest children, and the Trump Organization alleging fraud.
Her office wants to ban the former president from ever doing business in New York again. Alice Barr has the details from Capitol Hill.
In a sweeping new lawsuit, New York Attorney General Letitia James accusing former President Donald Trump, 3 of his adult children, and the Trump Organization of a, quote, staggering pattern of fraud.
No one is above the law.
The 220-page suit details allegations that the former president lied to lenders and insurers for more than a decade in a scheme to inflate his personal net worth by billions of dollars and secure better loan agreements.
Claiming you have money that you do not have does not amount to the art of the deal. It's the art of the steal.
James wants a judge to permanently bar the Trumps from running any New York company or receiving loans from any New York registered bank for 5 years. And she's seeking $250 million in penalties.
Nobody goes to jail as a result of this. It's a civil lawsuit. That also means that she has a lower burden of proof at trial.
James says her years-long investigation did uncover criminal activity, that she's referring to federal prosecutors in Manhattan and the IRS. She alleges 200 instances of fraud over 10 years, including Mr. Trump falsely claiming his New York apartment was more than triple its actual size to make it the most expensive in New York history. The former president on his social media dismissing the claims as a witch hunt and calling James a, quote, fraud who campaigned on a Get Trump platform. A Trump attorney insisting no wrongdoing has taken place, accusing the AG of an unchecked abuse of authority. James, who is running for re-election in November, pointed to 2 judges dismissing the Trump team's claims that the investigation was politically motivated. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Now, WSAV News 3 on your side weather with Storm Team 3 Viper Radar, powered by the Dozier Law Firm.
This Wednesday was very sunny and rather hot around the Coastal Empire and Low Country, and it looks like we're not getting out of that pattern as we head into Thursday. Temperatures will be even hotter with that sunshine sticking around. Here's the view from our Savannah cam out on River Street. You can see a beautiful blue sky out there, nothing in the way of cloud cover, so as you expect, we are all dry as far as rainfall, but temperatures warming up quite a bit in areas to the west of I-95, sitting at 95 degrees for Vidalia, 93 for Metter. When you factor in the humidity, which isn't too terribly high, these temperatures are actually feeling pretty close to those heat index temperatures, so that's some good news there. There are some changes on the way in the way of some hotter temperatures for our Thursday, with lots of sunshine sticking around, but late in the day tomorrow, overnight into Friday, a cold front will be approaching and moving through the area, and that will bring us much cooler weather as we head into Friday and for the weekend. Here's the setup across the southeast. We do have high pressure in control, keeping things sunny and hot. The high pressure has sinking air. It compresses as it sinks in. That's why things will be a bit hotter for tomorrow. But here's that next front that we are tracking. It's now making its way through the midsection of the country, and it will be here for us late tomorrow night, bringing some cooler air just in time for the beginning of fall. In the tropics, we have several systems that we are watching. We have Hurricane Fiona, which is a Category 4 system. Tropical Storm Gaston in the North Atlantic is no threat to the U.S. or any land, but what we are watching right now is Hurricane Fiona, which is expected to become a little bit stronger. You can see how well defined it is on satellite imagery with a very large eye, 130 mile per hour sustained winds, and it is producing wind gusts as high as 160 miles per hour, and it is going to be moving just to the west of Bermuda, but unfortunately the island is going to be under the heaviest part, the strongest part of the storm as we get to Friday. So they are definitely going to be dealing with hurricane conditions for Friday into the evening, then moving toward Canada in the maritime provinces. one thing that we're watching just to the east of the Caribbean Sea is an area of low pressure that the Hurricane Center is highlighting for a 90% chance of developing once it does move into the Caribbean. There is very warm water and right now staying weak, so it should take more of a western track. But then as we get to, say, the next 5 days, as it is in the western Caribbean, we definitely are going to have to watch out for the possibility of a strong Gulf of Mexico system that could impact the southeastern U.S. Definitely watching that as we get closer. 70 degrees will be our low temperature for tonight with mainly clear skies, and then for tomorrow afternoon, 95, mainly sunny, very hot for us, but then a cool down is on the way for Friday. 80 for that high temperature, upper 50s then for Saturday morning, then the lower to middle 80s then for those weekend afternoons. In our drive times, we are seeing some delays heading out of Savannah on 16 and also some of the other roadways, but no major accidents to report this afternoon. We'll have another check of the forecast coming up in just a bit. Tina and Ben, back to you.
We'll see you then. Thank you. When we come back tonight, we will show you one woman's unique way of celebrating her Mexican roots for Hispanic Heritage Month.
And how she is helping others in the process. You're watching WSAV News 3 at 5. As we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we are highlighting a Central Texas business owner who is creating opportunities for working moms in Mexico.
She partners with Mexican artisans working toward financial stability to support their families. Britt Moreno learns more about these budding business relationships and friendships.
Scroll Origin Mexico's Instagram and you'll see vibrant handmade items and hope in the eyes of the women making them.
A lot of the women that I work with, they don't benefit from a lot of the educational or financial resources that sometimes we do.
As a Mexican American, Yasmin Castañeda feels connected to these artisans.
Our hat that is hand painted by an artisan in Oaxaca. Her name is Alicia. She has 2 small children.
During the pandemic, she discovered a need.
The tourism had really declined in Mexico during the pandemic, and they weren't really selling anything, and this is their livelihood.
Castañeda left her corporate job and now runs Origin Mexico out of her home in Dripping Springs. She works directly with the women making these shoes, clothes, and jewelry, helping them find customers far from home.
Developed a lot of friendships with them, and I see that they not only have thrived, but they're really succeeding, and they are now fully independent. We work directly with the artisans. Behind every item, there's a story.
She travels to Mexico to meet with her artisan partners and communicates by phone in between visits.
Lo agradezco mucho.
¿Cómo está la relación entre usted y Yasmin?
Joyce is a working mom. She embroiders these intricate dresses and has perfected a skill her own mother taught her. She's grateful to U.S. buyers.
This took about 30 hours to hand produce because it is handmade.
As a first-generation Mexican-American, how does it feel to be linked up to these women in Mexico and offering them this kind of support?
I'm very proud of having that opportunity because it reminds me of my family. My grandparents come from very humble beginnings in Durango, Mexico. I feel that working with them directly in Mexico, I'm allowing them to create better opportunities as well.
It's also an opportunity for her own 3 daughters to connect with their Mexican heritage. Castañeda says that fills her with joy.
For me, in addition to reconnecting with my culture and showcasing that to the world, it's also important for me to leave a lasting impression in the lives of my daughters so they could be proud of their heritage.
And proud of their mommy too, right?
Yes, that too.
And we will be sharing stories from the Coastal Empire, Low Country, and across the country all month. You can see more at wsav.com/Hispanic Heritage.
We have more news ahead, including what could be a game changer for the streaming giant Spotify.
How they are expanding their platform to a whole different kind of listener. WSAV News 3 at 5:30 is next.
You're watching WSAV on your side. Now, WSAV News 3 at 5:30.
Ahead this half hour, a shootout leaves one person dead and 3 others hurt in Emmanuel County. We are hearing from police about what led up to the violence. And we are getting answers about the status and cost of interstate widening projects in South Carolina.
Before we get to those top stories and more, let's step outside and show you the view of downtown. We have a lot of sunshine across the region. Same thing for Savannah, and thanks to that, we don't have anything in the way of rainfall in our area. Viper radar is all clear for us. That's going to be the case for the next several days. One thing that you don't see in that view actually is the hot air. We have 93 degrees for Vidalia, 88 for us here in Savannah. When you do factor in the humidity, it's on the lower end of the scale, but still feeling a few degrees warmer for some of us. And these temperatures are going to be even hotter as we get to Thursday, which is the start of fall. The equinox actually is late in the evening hours, so not the first full day of fall. That happens on Friday, and we will have much cooler air in the picture by then. So staying on the mild side for us this evening with those temperatures in the 60s and the 70s. As far as the rest of the evening, we will be cooling off into the mid-70s by 10 and 11. For tomorrow, looks like our temperatures will be about 10 degrees above normal for those afternoon highs, but then heading into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's going to be much cooler, and it will be feeling like fall for us. So we'll be talking about that in the full forecast. Plus, we do have some news development that is possible in the tropics. We'll talk about that coming up in a few moments. Ben?
Scott, thank you. We begin with a quadruple shooting in Emmanuel County that left a 19-year-old man dead. Investigators say it started with an argument. Investigators say the shooting is likely gang-related. It happened around 6 on Monday night in Swainsboro. We're told that 19-year-old Eric Foreman Jr. was shot and killed, and 3 other people were hurt. Investigators say there was a fight before the shooting and that the violence that followed may have been a retaliation.
So now we've got a homicide. We're interviewing suspects. We're gathering evidence. Multiple rounds are on the ground. Empty rounds are on the ground. Multiple weapons, different calibers that we're finding. So we're trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together so we can get the right picture painted here.
Investigators have identified a person of interest in the case, but so far, no one has been arrested. In news around South Carolina, some parents are concerned about safety at a popular amusement park. It comes after chaos erupted after rumors of a shooting at the Scarowinds event on Saturday. That's the 2-week-long Halloween-themed event at Carowinds. As Robin Kennedy tells us tonight, officials hope a new chaperone policy will help calm things down.
Terica Fletcher used to love going to Carowinds with her family.
In the beginning, it was really fun.
But then she says teens got out of control at the park.
After COVID hit, the kids started getting, I don't know because they were stuck in the house, but they started getting rowdy, fights. And so my husband and I, we just completely stopped going.
She believes most of the young people causing problems were not with an adult.
I think that was the case. Drop them off, come back in a couple hours, pick them up, and that's about it. It was a big daycare.
Carowinds just announced a new youth chaperone policy for Scarowinds. If you're 17 or younger, you're going to need a chaperone who's 21 or older to get into the park.
The parents is like their best friends, so some parents not even controlling their kids. So I can't say it's going to work or it won't work.
The policy all came about because of what officials say were false reports of gunshots at Scarowinds Saturday night. CMPD officers and a helicopter swarmed the amusement park after reports of people running around yelling that someone had a gun, forcing people to leave the park. Officials say those reports were not true, and unruly kids were to blame for the scare, which shut down the park early for the night. Under this new policy, chaperones will have to show their photo ID at the ticket entry to the park, and they cannot have more than 4 young guests with them.
I might go and try it again, and if it gets too crazy, I'm not gonna do it again.
According to Carowinds staff, if you're 17 or younger and without a chaperone, you could get kicked out of the park. This policy is only for Scarowinds and not for standard operating days or other events at the park. South Carolina is working to widen interstates you use to travel. More than $2 billion have been invested to get this done. WSAV's Jason Rabin is in Newberry County with an update.
state transportation officials say thanks to infusions of extra money from the federal government along with state funds, projects like the one behind me are ahead of schedule. And they say they're working hard across the state to widen as many interstates as possible. Officials with the Department of Transportation and the governor were in Newberry County to share progress on an ongoing project to widen I-26 Wednesday. Now, Secretary of Transportation Christy Hall says currently there are about 80 miles of interstate under construction in South Carolina right now, and a combination of gas tax funds, federal money, and state money are helping pay for this and speed up the timeline for some projects.
Pretty much every interstate in this entire state is under construction or receiving some sort of upgrade. That's very that speaks really clearly to the commitment of the policymakers to make sure that our infrastructure is set to take us to that next level.
Now, DOT officials say South Carolina is home to the 4th largest state highway system in the country and is the 10th fastest growing state. Now, the governor says these types of projects help prepare the state for this growth.
But we have to make the roads wider. And Christy Hall and her team have found a way to use every dime that's available to use the federal money that's come in as well as the state money.
This project on I-26 just west of Columbia is nearly 60% complete, and they expect to have it done by the end of 2024.
Then in 2023, there's I-95 interchange is planned to go to contract, as well as some additional widening, I-95 at I-26, and some additional widening on 26 in 2023.
Earlier this year, the gas tax was increased for a final time. Now, officials say $272 million of the gas tax increases since 2017 have been committed to interstate widening projects. In Newberry County, I'm Jason Raven.
State officials say the gas tax is being used to fund about $2 billion worth of projects. Tiny homes may be coming to one Georgia community. The goal is to help get homeless teenagers off of the streets. A nonprofit based in Augusta wants to build small homes for teens who have aged out of the foster care system. Experts say many of them have no place to live and they end up as victims of sex trafficking. The Drum Google Family Initiative aims to help the teens as they begin their journey into adulthood. Their tiny homes community would create affordable housing and include a community center with resources like financial planning and even cooking lessons.
When the youth come in and say, listen, I know Jackson, I know you want me to get a degree in engineering. I know you want me to go into cyberspace, but listen, all I care about is learning how to drive. That's success for me. And so I have to let that go and say, you know what, you're absolutely right. What's success for you is learning how to cook your own meals, learn how to manage your checkbook, learn how to manage a household, and being able to just take care of yourself when you leave our organization.
Organizers say they hope to have land and break ground on the community in January and open in April. Lawmakers are pushing for reforms meant to avoid future confusion about election results. The proposed legislation will solidify how electoral votes are cast and counted in presidential elections. WSAV's Hannah Brandt is in our Washington newsroom with a closer look.
A decades-old election law could get a major makeover.
We must update it and modernize it to make it work.
Lawmakers are pushing a bill to reform the Electoral Count Act, which sets the rules about how presidential votes in the Electoral College are counted and certified. The move is a direct response to former President Trump's efforts to change the outcome of the 2020 election.
People who don't like the results of an election feel empowered to lie and reject those results, sometimes violently.
Congressman Jamie Raskin says the legislation would make it harder to change or throw out states' electoral votes.
Ensuring that strategic bad faith actors are unable to exploit procedural loopholes.
The bill has some bipartisan support in both the House and the Senate, but many Republicans say they won't vote for it.
This is nothing more than an attack on President Trump in the 2020 election.
Congressman Guy Reschenthaler says instead of pushing this bill, lawmakers should focus on solutions for issues like inflation or immigration.
Yet another partisan political show while the American people are at home suffering the consequences of their failed agenda.
But Congressman Jim McGovern insists this legislation is critical to ensure our government can function.
Vote like the future of our democracy depends on this bill, because it does.
With former President Trump weighing another presidential run, supporters of the bill want to get it passed before the 2024 presidential election. In Washington, I'm Hannah Brandt.
Still ahead tonight, Hurricane Fiona intensifying to a Category 4 storm overnight. We'll take a look at the damage that it caused in its path so far. Plus, we will check in with meteorologist Scott Roberts to see how it could affect us here at home.
Now, back to WSAV News 3 at 5:30 with Ben Singer and Chief Meteorologist Chris Allred. WSAV News 3. On your side.
Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic have just started to recover after they were pounded by Hurricane Fiona this week. The storm knocked out power to hundreds of thousands of homes and flooded neighborhoods. Dan Scheneman has more on those recovery efforts.
From the air, it's easy to see the devastation on the ground in Puerto Rico. Entire neighborhoods saturated with water. An estimated 80% of the island left without power. Many Puerto Ricans now depend on generators to power their homes. That's if they can find gas.
Gas stations are pretty full, or some of them are empty, and that's because they don't have any gas.
The storm downed transmission lines all over the island. A power provider says it is working around the clock to repair transmission lines and restore service, but full restoration could still be days away. The island's residents insist they are resilient.
Puerto Ricans, we've been tested by everything. Hurricane Maria made us tougher than we were. I can tell you now that we are already rebuilding.
More than 200 miles away, the Dominican Republic is also recovering from Fiona. Rivers are overflowing, about 700,000 people without power, and many of those that call it home now working to pick up the pieces of their home. One woman said it took the roof off. It dismantled everything, everything. We had to run out. And the threat of Fiona is not over. It's now a Category 4 storm, bearing down on Bermuda. Dan Shenneman, NBC News.
Now, WSAV News 3 on your side weather with Storm Team 3 Viper Radar. Powered by the Dozier Law Firm.
Well, for our Wednesday, we've had very nice conditions around the coastal Empire Low Country with lots of sunshine, and with that, temperatures were able to warm into the middle to upper 90s for a few locations, and more of us will be getting in on that action as we head into our Thursday. Here's the view of Tybee Island. We can see all that blue sky out there. We don't have anything in the way of rainfall in our area. 85 is the current temperature on the island, feeling like 91 degrees. But elsewhere, further inland, that's where we do have those hotter temperatures. 93 degrees right now for Vidalia, 88 for us here in Savannah, 92 for Rincon, and temperatures for tomorrow will be about 10 degrees above normal for this time of the year. 86 is where we should be, but we are going to be in the middle to upper 90s for many locations with a lot of sunshine throughout the day. After sunset going into tomorrow evening, which is when the autumnal equinox is, we actually have a cold front that is going to be approaching us out, bringing us some much cooler air, especially you'll notice that during the morning hours over the weekend. Saturday could be as cool as the middle to upper 50s for many of us, and then getting closer to normal then as we go into next week, but staying a few degrees below that actual normal low temperature. High pressure in control of our weather across the southeast, which will help things to really heat up for our Thursday. But here's that next front that we are tracking. There is some rain associated with this, but that is not going to be coming in our direction. It's just the cooler and drier air that will be sliding into the region as we get to the weekend. But check it out, ahead of that front, 100 degrees right now for Little Rock, Arkansas, just the 60s for areas on the cool side of that front. 60 degrees for Rapid City, 52 degrees for Denver. In the tropics, we have numerous systems that we are watching. 3 tropical waves that have potential for development. Tropical Storm Gaston in the North Atlantic poses no threat to land. It may become a little bit stronger, but again, doesn't threaten any land masses. As far as Fiona, it is a much stronger storm than what we had for yesterday. 130 mile per hour sustained winds, making it a Category 4 storm with wind gusts as high as 160. This will be approaching the island of Bermuda just to the west on Friday. So unfortunately, Bermuda is going to be on the bad side of the storm. So they will be in store for a lot of strong wind and flooding rain, just like Puerto Rico was dealing with. This system, 90% chance of developing just to the east of the Caribbean Sea, approaching the Lesser Antilles. This will be entering the Caribbean Sea over the next couple of days and possibly becoming a little bit more organized as it gets to the Western Caribbean and gradually turns to the north. It will be something that states along the Gulf of Mexico, that Gulf Coast, they will have to be on high alert for the possibility of a strong, strengthening hurricane moving into the Gulf next week. We will be watching it very carefully. No direct threat to us at this time, so that's some good news there. 70 degrees will be our low temperature for tonight, staying mainly clear, and then for tomorrow afternoon, mainly sunny, very hot, middle to upper 90s for many areas to the west of I-95. 95 for us here in Savannah for that high temperature, 96 for Baxley, 97 for Vidalia, but at least we do have cooler air sliding in for the later part of the week for Friday and into the weekend. In our drive times, we are seeing some delays heading to Rincon from Port Wentworth along Highway 21. No major accidents to report, but normal volume is causing some delays at this time. We'll have another check of the weather forecast coming up in the next half hour. Ben?
Scott, thank you. New in our health report now, studies show the amount of sleep people receive and when they receive that sleep could play a significant role in their risk of developing dementia. Researchers from China involved nearly 2,000 adults in the study. At the beginning, none of the participants had dementia. Scientists followed up with them after more than 3 years and found that 97 of those individuals were diagnosed with the disease. The risk of dementia was 69% higher among those who slept more than 8 hours per night and 2 times higher for those who went to bed before 10 o'clock. Ahead of what's trending tonight, with Halloween just around the corner, some people already whipping out those spooky decorations. See one family's take on one of Netflix's biggest shows. Halloween will be here before we know it, and hardcore fans of the holiday are already setting up their yards. A couple near Chicago has gone viral for their Stranger Things themed display in the works. Let's take a look. That is Dave and Aubrey. Their TikTok handle is Horror Props. These two videos have been viewed millions of times. They hope to have their whole display up the first week of October. Audio streaming giant Spotify is launching a long-awaited feature to their platform, audiobooks. The addition comes after users had been requesting these for years. Spotify listeners in the U.S. will be able to purchase and listen to more than 300,000 titles. American Airlines is adding new high-end premium suites to some of its planes in 2024. This is a look at the flagship suite. The seats will feature privacy doors, lie-flat seating, direct aisle access, and more personal storage space. The airline says there will be 71 total flagship seats in its fleet. The company says premium seating for its long-haul trips will grow more than 45% by the year 2026. You know the drill. We had to wrap up what's trending with a little Earth, Wind, and Fire. That is September, released over 40 years ago in 1978. The tune was the group's most popular song. Although many have pondered the significance of this particular day, it's never been revealed. But the songwriter Ali Willis, who worked with the group to write the hit, explained their reasoning for selecting that specific date, saying that they went through all the dates. Do you remember the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the one that just felt the best was the 21st. It is a special honor for the Chatham County Teacher of the Year. Her students and her colleagues will explain coming up. And his time as a Savannah City alderman was marked by controversy. Now Tony Thomas is back in the spotlight and facing serious criminal charges. WSAV News 3 at 6 is next.
Next on News 3 at 6, we are learning more about the criminal charges against a former Savannah alderman.
We're filing a lawsuit against Donald Trump for violating the law as part of his efforts to generate profits.
And former President Trump facing new legal trouble tonight. We'll detail the lawsuit against him and his children.
For our Thursday, we are watching the likelihood of hotter temperatures, but things will change as we head into the week, and we'll track that and the tropics coming up in a few moments. But first, News 3 at 6 o'clock starts now.
You're watching WSAV on your side. Now, WSAV News 3 at 6.
Good evening and welcome to News 3 at 6. I'm Ben Singer.
And I'm Tina Shaw. Thank you for joining us. He stirred up controversy for 5 terms on Savannah City Council. Now, Tony Thomas is back in the headlines again. This time, he is charged with a serious crime.
And WSAV's Andrew Davis is joining us now with more on his arrest and his past troubles.
Well, Tony Thomas was known to clash with his detractors and even with his fellow council members. Now he faces serious allegations, though, that could land him in prison.
Under no circumstances whatsoever will I make an apology to Mr. Dunn.
Hags, skanks, whores. That is what he called his own constituents.
I will continue to waste my time coming up here for these two that are just dragging crap out.
Tony Thomas has been no stranger to harsh words, but he had never been in jail until now. The former alderman was arrested by Pooler police Tuesday on a felony charge of theft by taking. The man who spent 5 terms on Savannah City Council was now the manager of the Parker store on Pooler Parkway, a store he apparently was stealing from. News 3 has learned that Thomas is accused of taking several $1,000s from the store by investigators. While Thomas was never arrested before, he was the focus of a GBI investigation for allegedly sexually assaulting teenage boys. Some of those boys came forward in a series of YouTube videos.
Is this true at all?
No. No. I mean, sexual misconduct with little boys is not true.
In the end, a grand jury agreed, and Thomas was not indicted.
I think it was wrong. I think it was in poor taste. And I think it was not fitting of anybody, even a city council member.
Thomas could not escape being the first ever alderman censured by his fellow city council people in 2019 for lewd comments he made to a reporter and for photos showing him heavily intoxicated on St. Patrick's Day. And it was later that year that voters apparently had enough. He lost a runoff to Curtis Pertee. But Thomas was still upbeat then about life after office.
Life doesn't end. Public service is something that you know comes in your blood. And Tony will find many things that will keep him occupied.
Now, what will now occupy Thomas's time is defending himself against a felony charge that carries up to a sentence of up to 5 years in prison. He was released on $2,400 bond. We did reach out to the former alderman to see if he wanted to address these allegations, but he did not return our call. Andrew Davis, WSAV News 3, on your side.
Thank you. Digging deeper now, you may remember that Tony Thomas once owned a business called The Stuff Store. He was evicted from Savannah Mall in 2019 for allegedly not paying his rent. Mall management put the merchandise outside. That prompted Thomas to take to social media telling people to stop by and take whatever they wanted from the heap of used furniture and other items.
Making headlines now, tonight former President Donald Trump facing new legal problems. The New York Attorney General has filed a $250 million lawsuit against Mr. Trump, his 3 oldest children, and his business empire alleging fraud. As WSAV's Basil John tells us, she says they were part of a scheme that lasted more than a decade.
We are filing a lawsuit against Donald Trump.
Wednesday, State Attorney General Letitia James announced the state of New York is suing former President Donald Trump. The civil lawsuit also includes 3 of Trump's adult children and the organization they operate.
For violating the law as part of his efforts to generate profits for himself, his family, and his company.
The lawsuit alleges the Trumps were involved in large-scale fraud, often by overvaluing assets like buildings and golf courses to deceive banks.
To lend money to the Trump organization on more favorable terms than would otherwise have been available to the company.
James says the 3-year-long investigation also found the former president and his family violated several state laws,
including falsifying business records, issuing false financial statements, insurance fraud.
The Attorney General is seeking a $250 million judgment and restrictions on future business the family can conduct in the state. In response, Donald Trump called the Attorney General a failed official whose lack of talent in the fight against crime is driving people and businesses out of the state. And Donald Trump Jr. said, quote, "Letitia James doesn't care about the law. She's a Dem activist who only cares about politics." Trump's legal team added they look forward to defending their client from claims they call meritless. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
New at 6, a stabbing sends one person to the hospital in serious condition. Savannah police say it happened at Baker Street Park on Jinks Street. The victim managed to walk to this Dollar General. That is when someone called an ambulance. So far, no one has been arrested.
Take a good look at these pictures now. Savannah police need your help to find these people. They are 20-year-old Cameron Dixon and 20-year-old Takaya Wilkerson. Both are from Sardis, Georgia. Investigators say the two are wanted for the murder of Miles Bright on July 25th. He was found shot outside of the Parker's convenience store on Victory Drive in Savannah. He died at the hospital a short time later. Anyone with information on their whereabouts should call Crime Stoppers at 912-234-2020.
There is new information tonight about a man missing from Tybee Island. Corey White was last seen in May of 2022. Now investigators believe they have found his remains. The body was discovered on Jones Island, South Carolina yesterday. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office says several personal items, including a wallet and identification next to the remains, belonged to White. An autopsy is scheduled for sometime this week to get a positive ID.
Tonight we're getting answers after several people at Family Promise, a Savannah short-term housing facility, reached out to News 3. They say they are being forced out and they have no place to go. WSAV's Kyra Jones talked to some of these residents as well as the director of the nonprofit.
Right now we have no place to go. That's just the honest to God truth.
Family Promise of the Coastal Empire helps families with food, clothing, and shelter. Some of the families are now accusing the facility of verbal abuse, negligence, and false communication. Several weeks into the program, Marcy Cherry claims she's being forced out on Thursday.
None of it never happened, so I don't want this to happen to some other family that may have children that may come into this program full of hope and then be let down because whatever they said they were going to do never came to pass, never came into fruition.
Sharita Miles, another resident, claims she also has to leave and says it was time to speak out.
And it has to come to an end. I just felt like it was right for us to speak up because now you're hindering not only adults, you're hindering kids. My 7-year-old daughter sat there at the table yesterday and said, "So are we going to be homeless again?" You know, so it's not right. It's not right at all.
Both Marcy and Sharita say no resources have been provided to them as they are faced with homelessness again.
You know, I'm staying in a place that says it's for hope. It's not hope. This place is Family Promise. It's all lies. It's all broken promises.
If you're not comfortable with helping people, if it's not in your heart and in your spirit to help anyone, then this is not the job for you.
Now, News 3 reached out to the executive director of Family Promise for comment. Katrina Bostic released a statement saying, in part, Family Promise does not have the resources to continue to pay rental deposits and ongoing rent for families who choose to not fully participate in our programs. We have the full statement at wsav.com/familypromise.
New at 6, Hilton Head Island is the latest municipality to sign on to an agreement designed to help build affordable housing in the Low Country. The town voted to join the Regional Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That fund has pledged $7 million over the next 10 years to help build workforce housing in Beaufort and Jasper counties. Hilton Head joins Bluffton, Yemassee, Hardeeville, and Beaufort in this coalition. The town council did not say how much they would be contributing to the fund.
Financial experts say after hitting a 40-year peak, inflation levels are finally trending downward. But in the Southeast, new economic indicators show costs have gone up nearly 12% over the past year. WSAV's Arshna Seshadri is in our Georgia Capitol newsroom with a breakdown.
The new Consumer Price Index report shows food prices went up 3% and housing costs soared 13% over the last quarter in the Southeast.
Everything across the board is going up. Food is going up more than most. Shelter, which is a big component, it's more than 20% of the CPI, is on an annual basis is something like 20%.
The data shows energy costs dropped 10%, gas prices plummeted 20%, and transportation costs went down slightly at 5%.
What's more driving this is not people's voluntary decisions to, okay, I'm going to buy less of this because the prices are going up. It's that inflation is eroding real wages. And so we were seeing real incomes fall because of that. And so people are going to cut back on their expenditures because they simply don't have enough purchasing power in their pocket anymore.
Experts say with a potential interest rate hike, hold off on any large purchases until next year.
We are seeing some goods going down, mostly disposable products, non-durables. However, we are still seeing the price of durables, automobiles, homes, etc., still quite high. And of course, the interest rates don't help in terms of consumer purchasing. So it's not a good time, as I said, to purchase large ticket items. Of course, homes, cars, durables such as appliances.
Archit Seshadri, WSAV News 3 on your side.
Economists say 40% of goods are transported through trucks, while 30% through rail.